Hello, welcome everyone. Congratulations CSUCI students, it's official. How does it all feel for everyone to become dolphins? So we want to pause here and just take a moment to recognize you for all that you are. I thank you for joining us on an amazing Saturday morning, but we also know it's Saturday. But we do want to recognize all that you are. You all have worked really hard to get to where you're at. And we do want to pause a little bit this morning and just take it all in. All of you have your own transfer stories, and we just want to recognize them. We know it's been a path to get here, and we also know that you're also finally here. So we want to pause and take it all in. We also want to let you know that you are closer than you have ever been to your baccalaureate degree. And we're excited that we get to be a small part of your journey going forward. So with school starting less than a few days away, we know that many of you are probably normally a little bit nervous about starting a new school. And of course, we're in the middle of a pandemic, no less, right? So no doubt, we just want to acknowledge already, you all are trailblazers, accomplishing literally the unprecedented. So today, our main goal is to get you ready to start your first semester at CSUCI strong. We want to get you CI ready. So how can you be prepared for what is around the corner? Well, that's our main goal for today. Before I go any further, I want to let you know that we have assembled an amazing team for you today, and I just want to take a moment to introduce them. One special note that I want to mention before going any further is that the majority of the team here today either were transfer students themselves or work directly with transfer students. So I brought a little button that I want to show you all. I love transfers. So that's a little bit of our story. We're here. We are here for you. We've been where you are. I personally went to 5 different undergraduate institutions before I eventually graduated, and it took me 9 years to get my degree. And definitely there were times that I felt like giving up. But in that time, I had some people that took the time to believe in me. Today, we want to let you know that we believe in you. Keep going. We're here to support you. So without further ado, here's the amazing team that I mentioned.
Hi everyone, my name is Daniela Ochoa and I am an academic advisor.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Smith. I'm also an academic advisor.
Hi everyone, my name is Serena Gutierrez and I'm also one of the academic advisors.
Hi everyone, my name is Carla Geary and I'm also an academic advisor.
On behalf of the University Culture Program, we have joining us today.
Hi everyone, I'm Roseanne Moreno. I've been the one who's been contacting you, so it's nice to finally put faces to the names now.
Hi everyone, my name is Tommy McMakin. Welcome today.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucero Segundo. I am a grant analyst.
So we also want to introduce some of our peer mentors that are part of the Education and Equity Program. We call them PEEPs. They are CSUCI students just like you, and all of them were transfer students to CSUCI not that long ago. PEEPs?
Hi everyone, my name is Julie.
Hi everyone, my name is Maripaz.
My name is Rafael.
Hi everyone, my name is Kat.
Awesome. Thanks so much, team, for joining us here on Saturday. So that's a team that will be walking you through the event today over the next couple of hours. So just kind of going over some of the things that we'll be covering in today's session, we want to make sure that you have a clear sense of everything that we're going to be covering, mainly before we hit it so you know what the lay of the land is. So just really quickly, on today's agenda, we have the welcome. This is what's going on right now. We're giving you a small welcome, but we're going to be jumping pretty soon into the icebreaker. So in just a minute, we're going to turn it over to you. We want to make sure to get everyone's voice in the room. We want to keep you moving and engaging, and we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you have in the icebreaker. Then immediately after the icebreaker, our peeps will walk you through some basic tech tools that you will literally use every day as a CI student. Then we want to walk you through some tips on how to be successful at CI. And we want to give you a review of common mistakes to avoid so that as you're navigating the differences between community college and a four-year, you can see what we call the hidden curriculum. That's the things that no one ever really talks about and they just expect you to know them. Well, today we're going to talk about them. We're also going to review how to drive your car. This is CI's Academic Requirements Report, or what we call CARR. CARR will be crucial to your staying on track academically. You're going to want to be sure that you know exactly what CARR is and how we joke, we say how you want to drive your car, but literally how you will set up your academic coursework over the next 2 years that you're here at CSUCI. So, as promised, I want to give you a chance to speak. And we want you to have a chance to meet one another. As you can see, we have a lot of folks joining us here today, and we want to make sure, even before CI gets started, that you have a chance to meet other transfer students. So in just a few seconds, we're going to randomly put you all into breakout rooms. But I want to introduce a student organization called Transfers Making an Impact, or TMI. They have volunteered to be our facilitators for this session. Just so you know, shameless plug moment, CI does have a student club for transfer students. So to them we say, snaps up, we love our TMI students. They help transfer students, everyone in the club was a transfer student, and they help transfer students in their adjustment. So they'll be facilitating this next section. So just a note, each room will have their own facilitator who will help you guide the conversation. A dialogue box will appear, just like this one that you see on the screen now. Once you click on it, please hit the join button. But before you go, the question to answer is, what are you most excited about? So we invite you to move over to your breakout rooms now. Don't worry, we'll bring you back when it's time. Get ready, set, go ahead and head over to your breakout rooms. And in just a minute, we just want to say a quick thank you while everyone's coming in, again to TMI, Transfers Making an Impact, for helping us facilitate our breakout sessions. So now, I hope you all had a chance to share and get a chance to meet one another. And now I want to jump us into kind of some of our presentations that we have lined up for you today. The first will be a technology overview that will be given by one of our peeps, Maripaz Jacobo. So Paz, I'm going to hand this over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Vero. All right, everyone. So for this portion of our presentation, we just want to give you all a quick overview of some tech features that CI has to offer. The first one we're going to go over is Dolphin Navigate. So Dolphin Navigate is this new feature on MyCI that allows you to make appointments with academic advisors. So real quickly, I'm just going to show you a couple steps that you can do to make those appointments. So first, once you log into your MyCI, you want to go ahead and hit Dolphin Navigate. Now, when you're in there, you want to hit Schedule an Appointment. This is going to be on the top right-hand corner, so go ahead and click that. After you click that, a couple questions will appear, and they'll be more designated around what type of academic advising appointment you want to make. So you want to hit the arrow down, hit Academic Advising. After that, a couple more questions will appear. So for this, it's going to get a more generalized sense of what type of academic appointment you want to make. So if it's EOP, an SSS, general advising, or major advising. So if you want to hit general advising, just to get a brief overview of, your transcript, your schedule, and all that. And then it'll give you what topic you'd like to go over with your academic advisor. So once you go through all those questions, then it'll give you a time slot of when you can make that appointment and all the academic advisors' availabilities. So that's just one new feature. As transfer students, like how we've mentioned, you want to go ahead and make those academic advising appointments because sometimes it might be a little bit difficult, trying to see which class is transferred or not, and you want to make sure you're on the right track. So now we want to talk about CI Records. CI Records is this feature on MyCI that gives you a broad overview of all your student information. When we talk about CI Records, there's going to be one main feature that we want to talk about, and that's going to be the CARR report. Later on in this presentation, we'll get a brief overview of what the CARR report looks like, but it's going to be found in the academic section of CI Records. Next, we want to talk about the library resources and services. So this feature of MyCI is really great when you're going to do research, when you need to find a bunch of articles or journals relating to your projects. One feature that I really like about it is that they have this section called research tools. So with these research tools, they'll give you a bunch of databases from A to Z regarding whichever subject you'd like to find more information on. Another feature that's really cool about these research tools are research guides. So these research guides are more specified to the major. So you have research guides over anthropology, art, biology. For one of my majors, environmental studies, I typically go to the ESRM function, and then it'll give me all the books that typically are used for research purposes, how to cite for that specific major, the databases that go with that major, and other peer-reviewed sources. The next feature we want to go over is CI Docs. So CI Docs is a way to have a Google Drive connected to your MyCI account. This is a great feature because if you just want to have a specific Google Drive for all of your class projects, class papers, this is the place you want to put it and make it. It just makes things like way easier instead of having all your papers, all your projects, your PowerPoints everywhere. One main CI feature we want to go over is Zoom. So since everything will be virtual, we want to point out that you want to have Zoom right when you go into your MyCI. The way you can do that too, before I jumped into this, is you want to go to the pinned feature up here. Once you click the pinned feature, you're able to add or unpin things right at the top of your screen, so that makes it more accessible. And the last thing we want to go over is CI Learn. Obviously, this is our Canvas feature, and it's another thing that you want to have pinned right at the top of your MyCI. So now I will stop sharing my screen and I'll hand it back over to Vero.
Great. Thank you, Boss, for walking us through some of the tech pieces. MyCI is literally life. As you'll learn, you're literally going to access everything that you need on your MyCI account. So next, I want to hand it over to one of our peeps, Julie Zendejas and Daniela Ochoa, our CSUCI academic advisor. One thing we don't want you to do is guess how you should get things done now that you're at a four-year university. So to help us how to review how to avoid common pitfalls, Julie and Daniela, I'll hand it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Vero. Like she said, so my name is Daniela Ochoa again. I'm an academic advisor here at CI. And I'm so excited to welcome you all. I loved the breakout rooms and you all were, participating and just getting excited, and it makes us get excited as well. So let's start by going ahead and taking a look at the differences between advising needs at the community college versus here at CI. So at the community college, you would basically go to your counselor and they were able to do all of the things listed on here. Like they had a lot of power. They could help you with classes, getting into classes, registering, evaluating transcripts, career counseling, approving a whole bunch of stuff. Now, here at CI, we still do the same things. It just looks a little bit differently. So here at CI, it's more divided into different offices and we all do different, specific things. So just a little bit of describing each of these. So if you had questions about your major or graduation requirements, you would come to academic advising. So you'd meet with your academic advisor. If you had questions about career, internship opportunities, graduate school, research, all that good stuff, you would go to a faculty advisor, which is someone in your department. And then also if you had questions about forms, transcripts, registration, like literally anything about class registration, prerequisite, all that stuff, you would go to the registrar's office. Financial aid advisor, I think I'm making it pretty obvious right there, but you would go to them for anything about financial aid. And then we also, in our department, it's really important to know that if you're maybe thinking about graduate school already and you're thinking a step ahead, we also have a graduate studies advisor in our office that basically goes through everything from applying to graduate school, how do you apply to graduate school, personal statement review, all that great stuff. Go ahead, Julie.
Thank you. So yeah, you as a transfer student, you may have questions about who do I go to contact. So one tip that I want to provide for you all is first questioning what type of questions you have. Let's say you have a question for a faculty. If you're looking to get a better understanding of how your major can be implemented, schedule an appointment with your major faculty advisor. They can look over your schedule of classes, help you plan, and also offer you advice and opportunities that are available to you in your major. Let's see if you have a question about your major.
Perfect. So, right, you got to pay for school. So that's that slide, that fun slide, right? So unlike the CC, unlike the community college where you pay per unit, CI is based on really how many units you're enrolled in. And there's two real big sections. So if you're a part-time student, which is 0 to 6 units, you're paying one rate. Okay. So no matter if you're in one class or two, it's going to be the same payment. Now, if you're in more than 6 units, so it says right there 6.1 units, and that's actually going to go all the way to 18 units. So 6.1 all the way to 18 units, you'd pay the other rate listed down there, so the 3,000 number. Now, a lot of students kind of think like, oh, why take 3 or 4 classes when I could take 5 or 6 classes? I'm going to be paying the same rate. Well, yes, at some point you can. However, for new transfer students, we highly suggest that you stick to 12 to 15 units for your first semester, just to kind of better understand the expectations of each course. So again, 12 to 15 units, so that's 4 to 5 classes. And then if you think it's easy peasy, then after that you can, add it on up after that. But maybe just take it a little bit easier the first semester so that you don't overexert yourself.
So as she was saying, it's expected for students to take about 12 to 15 units in order to stay on track to graduate. At a university, the workload is a lot different from the community college, especially between majors. One theme that is often seen across classes is that they are fast-paced and there is more reading assigned.
Okay, so it's your responsibility as a student to add and drop classes each semester. Students can add classes up until the first day of school without a permission code. So you can go in right now into the system and add, anything you'd like. But as soon as the first day of school starts, so that's August 24th, Monday, August 24th, you'll need a permission code after that. Okay, so it's basically like, hey, professor, can I get into this class? Even if it's the first day or the second day or, anything after that. You can add classes and drop classes until the Friday of the 3rd week. Okay, so I want you all to make a mental note to yourselves or maybe write it down or put it in your phones, but that's going to be September 11th. Okay, so Friday, September 11th is the last day that you can drop a class without getting a W. Okay, so without getting that withdrawal. After week 3 passes, you can only drop a class and get a W for serious or compelling reasons. Okay. This is a big change because at the community college, you are used to, basically going right up until the final where you can, withdraw from a class, and that's not how things are done here. So you basically just remember you have 3 weeks essentially to figure out what you want your schedule to look like for the entire semester. So again, September 11th. Okay. Lastly, the last part of this table shows that it's possible for you to substitute courses from the community college. So if you see a course that you thought counted for a GE and it's not counting, you can come and talk to us in the Academic Advising Center, and we can, figure out your options and get you to, fill out, certain petitions. However, if it's a class for your major, you're going to have to go to your faculty advisor for your classes for your major. Okay, if something's not if something's not the equivalent. Okay, now the last thing that I will share is just remember that lower division classes, so 100, 200 level classes, will never count for 300, 400 level. Okay, so just one example, if you took if you're a psych major and you took an intro to theories of personality, okay, and it was 100, 200, it's not going to count for the higher level version of that. Okay.
And in order to help you stay on track and be organized, it is highly recommended that you map out your syllabus with important due dates such as midterms, finals, due dates. that way you're able to get an oversight of what the whole semester looks like, and you're able to evaluate your success in all your classes before the 3-week drop period.
Yes, that's a great tip. So again, just to reiterate what Julie said, she's basically saying, like, look at all your syllabi and write everything down in one planner and kind of see it as a whole, okay? So now grades. So grades are also a little bit different from the community college. So if you notice, our grades here have pluses and minuses, and those pluses and minuses do affect your GPA differently. So for example, if you got a B plus versus a B minus, that would count differently in your GPA. Now notice you're gonna have 2 GPAs from here on out. So one's called the cumulative GPA, and you could just think of that as accounting for everything you've ever done up until this point, both at the community college and here at CI, okay? So it retains everything. Now you also will have a specific campus GPA, which is only CI courses. So really, if you think of it, you're starting fresh this semester with a new GPA, and you can, go as high as you want with that GPA, or, the other end, which I won't suggest. But of course, it's basically you're starting off fresh, and you can bump up that campus GPA. Okay.
So I'll share a personal experience of mine. So at the community college level, I was used to getting good grades and doing well, getting all A's usually most of the time. But when I did arrive to the university level, it was a lot different. The courses are a lot more challenging. So I noticed, and I didn't get the grades I wanted my first semester. So what I had to learn to do was actually work a lot harder and smarter, work with my professor, and ask for help.
Perfect. So let's go over some frequently asked questions. So what happens if you need to take a leave of absence? I think a lot of students don't know that they can, and it's not really discussed. Everything is just like, go, 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 you can do it. Like, you just need to figure school out. But sometimes students need a break, and that's definitely okay. Just know that you can be gone from CI for 2 semesters without permission, basically. So you can just say, you know what, I can't do this fall, or I can't do this spring. I need some time off, and you can take up to 2 semesters without, any repercussions whatsoever. But if you are going to be gone for more than a year, you would have to do a formal leave of absence form. Now, can you repeat classes? So you can repeat a class once. If you're going to repeat a class for the 3rd time, so take it for the 3rd time, you have to ask for permission. And that's definitely different from the community college. I know there that you can go up to, 4 times. Here, it's really just, we want you to only take a class over once. So a total of 2 times. Can I remove classes with bad grades from my record? So very popular question. Community colleges allow more academic renewals for bad grades. So that's what the term is at the community college. Now here at CI, we don't have the same policy. So just note that if you failed a class at community college, you have to repeat it at that community college, okay, for it to, have the academic renewal, guarantee. But if you, let's say you get a bad grade in a class here at CI, then you have to repeat it here at CI so that grade forgiveness can be implemented. Okay. What happens if you fall on academic probation? So basically that is, so if you go back to the GPAs, that's basically when it goes underneath the 2.0. Okay, so either GPA falls underneath the 2.0, then you would be on academic probation. What happens when you're on academic probations, academic probation is that you're restricted to how many units you can take in a semester. So you can only take 14 units in a semester, which may affect your expected graduation date. And it also can possibly affect your financial aid. So if you want to graduate on time and you want your money, right, then it's definitely important to have a good grasp of how many units you're going to be taking your first semester and know the resources that are available to you so that you don't fall on academic probation. So thank you. And that's all for this session. If you have any questions about what we went over, you can go ahead and pop those in the chat and we'll go ahead and answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie and Daniela. Now we're going to hear from Hannah Smith, an academic advisor, on how to navigate the CARR report. We've heard about it already a couple of times, and we want to be sure to go over this. As I mentioned earlier, CARR is going to be crucial in your time at CI, and it will give you all the information you need to be academically successful. Hannah, I'm going to hand it over to you. We'll just give her a second. She's probably unmuting.
I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Vero. Again, my name is Hannah Smith. I'm one of the academic advisors. Our two of academic advisors, Zarina Gutierrez and Carla Aguirre. While I'm presenting, if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and submit your questions through the chat, and one of them will be able to provide you with an answer. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get started with the presentation. So when you log into MyCI and the CI records, you will come across the Student Center page. So your Student Center page is basically it's going to tell you what your schedule is for this coming semester. And then on the left-hand side, you're going to have some menu items, but you also have a drop-down menu item. So you want to click on that drop-down menu item, and then it'll list the different items that you can select from. So we're going to take a look at the CARR report and the transfer credit report. First, I'm going to go over the transfer credit report. With the transfer credit report, it's going to show all the list of courses that you had taken at the various institutions that you went to. So for this particular example, this student went to Moore Park College, and the student took 103 units. However, we can only give you a maximum of 70 units. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't get credit for the other 33 units, like the other 33 units or the other classes that you had taken. You are going to get credit for all the classes that you had taken at the community college, whether it's going to count towards a GE or a major requirement. You want to also look at the courses and to be sure that each of them accounted for something. So for this particular example, you have anthropology MO1 and anthropology MO1L, and both of those counted towards anthropology 104 and 104L. So you got the units that you had, that course is accounted for or allotted for. So it's basically a 3 and 1 unit, and you got a 3 and 1 unit at CSUCI. However, if the class does not have a direct equivalency, as you can see in the example, sociology MO8 transferred over towards GE Area D. So that's what I mean by, your classes will count towards something regardless of whether or not you've taken more than 70 units. Then you want to go back to the Student Center page, and from here you want to select the CARR report. And once you click on the CARR report, it's going to bring you to the very top of the page. This is your current academic objectives. So you want to make sure that it tells you the correct major. So that's under plan, that's going to be your major. And if you have an emphasis or minoring in something, it's going to give you a subplan. So for communication majors, you do need to select an emphasis. So for this particular example, the emphasis is organizational communication. Your overall GPA basically is going to be your transfer GPA, and as you take courses at CI, it's going to average your CI GPA and your transfer GPA. So that's going to be your overall / cumulative GPA. Your CI GPA is only going to calculate the courses that you had taken at CI. And then it also provides you the contact information for the registrar's office should you have any kind of CARR discrepancies. You want to contact them directly. You also want to get yourself familiarized with the different degree icons. So you want to think of it sort of as a stoplight. So green means, you're good. you're good to go, it's complete, and a yellow diamond means it's in progress or you're currently taking the class right now, and a red box means that that is a requirement that you still need to fulfill. So when you scroll down from that very top academic objective section, you're going to come across this headers, and you want to click on expand all. So this way, each of the items, each of these headers will actually populate with the actual information. And when you scroll down, you're going to come across the general education requirements first. The general education requirements is your GEs that you had taken at the community college. Hopefully you've completed all of them. It's from areas A through E. And hopefully you have completed the golden four, which are your oral communication, English writing, critical thinking, and math. So that's A1, A2, A3, and B4. It's really important that you complete all of those requirements, as those are required in order for you to take the upper division GEs. And what I mean by upper division GEs, when you keep scrolling down and scroll past the lower division GEs, you're going to come across UDGEs. So that's the acronym for upper division general education. You're going to have to take 3 classes, one from each of the categories. So the categories are UDGEB, which has a scientific background, UDGEC, which has the arts and humanities background, and UDGED, which has the social sciences background. Most of you will probably see a red box right beside each of these items if you haven't enrolled in any of them during the fall semester. But if you did enroll in a course or two that fulfills UDGEs, it's going to show up with the yellow diamond. When you scroll past the UDGEs, you're going to come across the graduation requirements. The graduation requirements consist of 4 areas. Those are your U.S. history, American institutions, California state and local governments, language, and multicultural. So for the American institutions, it's the U.S. history and California local state government. So basically think of it as a U.S. history class and an American government class, so or American political institutions class. If you took either one of those or both of those, you probably will see the green check mark right beside them. For language, it would be any foreign language, including ASL. If you took those at the community college, you will see a green check mark. Otherwise, if you don't, if it's still showing up as a red box, then you can take that at CI, or you can take it at the community college again next summer and then retransfer the class. For multicultural requirements, some of those classes may have been fulfilled with some of your classes that you took at the community college, so you'll probably be surprised that you'll see a green check mark there. If it's showing up as a red box, don't worry about it. There are some classes like UDGE classes or even your major elective classes that can double count with multicultural requirement. When you scroll past the American institutions requirement, you're going to come across the total units for graduation. So the total units for graduation, what you want to focus on are the second set of numbers. So where it says total units, 120 required, 70 taken, 50 needed. So that's what you want to pay attention to. You want to pay attention to the number of units that are needed. So that means that's the number of units you need to take after your fall enrollment. That is basically to reach the 120 units. So in order for you to qualify, you have to have a minimum of 120 units. You scroll past the units, and there's going to be residency requirements, which you don't have to worry about because you're going to come across. You're going to complete that with all of your major requirements. So you just want to go and stop right where it says graduation writing assessment requirements. So we call that GOR. It's part of your major requirements, so you don't necessarily worry about, okay, what class should I take for this particular requirement? Because like I said, you're going to complete that with, and then you have your major requirements. So this is what you really also want to pay attention to, as you may complete the unit requirement, but not have fulfilled the major requirements. So you want to make sure that you complete every single item on this in this category. So first you want to look at the very top to see if there's a grade requirement or if there's a GPA requirement. So for this particular major, organizational communication, you need a minimum of a C minus. So although maybe like a D plus or a D is considered passing, if you do not get a C minus in your particular major classes, that class is not going to count towards the major requirement. Hence, you have to repeat it. So you want to look at any lower division requirements that you still haven't fulfilled. If it shows up as a red box, you want to look for where that red box is coming from. So for this particular example, this student will still need to take one from the following list of lower division requirements, either COM 210, interpersonal communication, COM 220, group communication, or COM 225, professional communication. You want to continue and review the upper division requirements and see which areas you still need to complete. So again, you want to look at every individual item. So for this particular requirement or for this particular, you will see that COM 305 or COM 310 is still not fulfilled. You want to scroll past the major requirements and you're going to come across the major electives. So the major electives, some majors may have major electives, some majors may have both major electives and emphasis electives, and then some majors may not have any major electives at all. There are also some majors, especially the STEM majors, require supporting courses that you have to take. Organizational comm as an example. So for this major, you have emphasis electives and major electives that you have to complete. So for this particular example, the emphasis elective that's still missing is COM 330. So then you scroll down to see what other major electives that you still need to take. If you're enrolled in any of them, it'll show up as a yellow diamond. Otherwise, if you still need to take any of them, a list will come up or will populate with what those courses that you need to take. So again, if you see any kind of discrepancies throughout your CARR report, you can email the registrar's office and they'll be able to provide you with a correction or a solution to the CARR discrepancy. If you need to petition a class, so let's say you took, for sure you took interpersonal communication, but it's showing up as a red box. Then you can email the registrar's office, or you can just go ahead and petition it and complete a course substitution form. Let's say you want to add a minor, or maybe you did not declare an emphasis. You're a new transfer student. You didn't know that you have to declare an emphasis. You can go ahead and complete the change of major form. You can find any of those forms on this website. And I provided that on the very bottom of the page. Some additional reminders I wanted to talk to you about would be, again, between now and basically August 24, you can continue to add classes as you wish, but once August 24 comes around, that's basically the first day of the semester. The only way you can add any classes would be to get a permission number from the instructor. And then dropping any classes, you can continue to add and drop classes up until the third semester. Once you get to the third week of the semester, so Monday comes around, it's fourth week, and you forgot to drop a class. The only way you can drop a class would be for serious and compelling reasons. So hopefully between now and by September 11th, you have reviewed your schedule completely and have gauged like how much you can handle. Can you handle 15 units? Can you handle only 12 units? It's all up to you. I know that a lot of you transfer students work full-time or work more than 20 hours a week. So that's a lot to handle with being a full-time student and working at the same time. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of time to devote to your studies. And then registration for spring semester will take place before Thanksgiving. So, so at least you can enjoy your Thanksgiving without worrying about next semester, right? All right, so finally, if you have any questions, you can always make an appointment with us. Just go ahead and make an appointment through Dolphin Navigate. You can also email advisement@csuci.edu, and our administrative coordinator will either direct you to the appropriate academic advisor or the appropriate campus resources. And if you have any more questions throughout the presentation, throughout the whole boot camp session, you can continue to send your questions to the chat box, either to me or Daniela or Carla or Zarina, and we'll be able to provide you with some answers. So now I'm going to hand it over back to Vero, who will introduce the faculty advisor or faculty for their faculty panel.
Thank you, Hannah. And thank you all. We've been getting some great questions in chat, so thank you all for sending those. So an important key to our academic success, of course, is all of you and your classes. And for us at CSUCI, that also includes your faculty, so your professors. So this afternoon, we have 4 amazing professors with us from 4 different majors. We are waiting on one who we're hoping will join us shortly, but we're going to go ahead and move forward with the introductions, see if he'll join us in just a minute. We want to thank each of them for taking time out of their Saturday to join us, and as I'm sure they will tell you, they're really excited to meet you. So in this next session, we're going to be hosting a faculty panel, and you will directly hear from them as your professors about what it takes to succeed at CSUCI, and particularly how to succeed at a 4-year university. Don't worry, we do have some questions that we will be asking them, but we also want to give you the opportunity to have questions and ask questions. So if you do have any questions throughout this next section, please feel free to send them over to the chat. We're going to be moderating the questions, so now we want to make sure that any incoming questions come directly to us. So we do want to give you all an opportunity to both meet and speak to our panel. So again, before we get started, why don't we meet our faculty joining us today? So first we have Dr. Carolyn Becerra. Dr. Becerra is a professor of biology, and in her spare time, she heads up LSAMP. LSAMP stands for the Lois-Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation, and the goal of LSAMP is to increase the quality and quantity of students completing STEM degree. So if STEM is your background, please consider LSAMP. Dr. Becerra, that was definitely a shameless plug. Dr. Becerra has been here at CI for 5 years, loves playing the ukulele, baking, and reading manga. Next, we'd like to introduce Dr. Jeff Buell, who can make anyone love math, and I can attest to that personally. So not surprisingly, he's a professor and chair of the math department and has been here at CI for 15 years. So he definitely knows his stuff. Even more reason to seek him out if you have any questions. And as he mentions here, raising 2 kids during a play, well, there is no free time. Next, we have Dr. Minder Chen, who is a professor of Management Information Systems, or MIS. In case that doesn't sound familiar, Dr. Chen is part of our business school, the Martin B. Smith School of Business and Economics. So if business is your background, Dr. Chen is the person for you. His hobbies include walking, Tai Chi, and Chinese classics. Thank you, Dr. Chen, for joining us today. And then last but never least, we'd like to introduce Dr. Jacob Jenkins, who has been here at CSUCI for 8 years. Dr. Jenkins is an associate professor of communication. And one thing he did not list here, but he also was a transfer student himself. So he also was in the same spot you are in now. His hobbies include film, travel, grilling, photography, listening to live music, and then moonlighting as a part-time body double for Vin Diesel. His words, not mine. And with that, I will say we do love our faculty, so we want to hear from them. So we asked all of you prior to today if you had any questions for the panel, and a few of you did send your responses, so we wanted to thank you. We're going to be starting off with the questions you all sent in, and then open it up to questions that we have in the chat. So if you have a question for the faculty panelists, just insert them in the chat, and we will aim to get to all of them. So here to moderate this next section is Lucero Segundo, who's with the University Culture staff and is with the Student Academic Success and Equity Initiatives Department. Lucero will be moderating our faculty panel. Lucero, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Vero. Hi, everyone. As Vero mentioned, I am Lucero. I'm a grant analyst for Student Academic Success and Equity Initiatives. We shorten it with SASE. So let's get started with some of the questions we've received. So the first question is, when will professors let students know what books they need for class, and how can students get ebooks?
Okay, who should go first? This is Minder. Let me try first. I guess different professors handle it differently. If you sign up for a class, usually you know who is the professor and find out how, and then you contact them by email. And a lot of time they will tell you in advance what textbooks will be required. And sometimes the bookstore may have that information. And sometimes Jacob know actually better. Some of the professor actually will have so-called free textbook or no textbook kind of requirement. They use a lot of online resources. And sometimes they will assign additional reference book, an additional textbook. So it all vary. And once you sign up for a course, you can ask the professor, contact them by email. They will get back to you.
I agree with everything Mender said. Just because he mentioned my name, I feel like I need to add on to that. But yeah, it's just going to vary by faculty. So I would advise to do your job, look on Canvas, look anywhere you can if there's a syllabus offered. That's the reason it's kind of a joke in academia. There's maybe too much information, but it's a joke. Faculty saying something like it's on the syllabus or check the syllabus, because we get asked questions a lot that are on the syllabus. So I would say do your part first, but then don't be afraid to ask. If you're confused at all, don't think that you can't ask us or unapproachable or something. It's just, it can be a little overwhelming if it's clear you're not doing your part and you're just spending 5 seconds to shoot the question to us first. So if you look on Canvas, see if you can find anything. If you can't, just email your faculty. And I suspect if you have 4 classes, you'll probably find the book for 2 or 3 of them, and they'll just leave 1 or 2 you need to contact, and they won't mind that at all. Just send them a note. And Mender mentioned the idea of free text. And just to be clear, that's not necessarily separate from a text or a textbook. It's just that sometimes they do cost, sometimes they don't. I use almost a pretty traditional textbook in all my classes, but yet they're also all free. So it's just depends on what the faculty is able to find and able to curate and things like that, if that helps.
One thing that I'd like to add about timing is that I know that you're all chomping at the bit to figure out what your textbook is. Faculty aren't technically back working until this Wednesday. So you will start seeing activity then. You might get emails from your professor. What will likely happen is the Canvas page. So CI Learn is our online learning platform. It's a Canvas thing if you're familiar with that. But you will start seeing your classes start popping up in Canvas. And if you go, you will be able to find textbook information there. So I know you're eager to understand what's going on, what you need to do. I think by Wednesday and Thursday, that information will be a lot more apparent to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I do just want to mention, so Boss, our peer mentor, did give a hint in the chat to use the CI bookstore website. And I have noticed in the past that some professors do put up their materials there ahead of time, so you can just get a heads up. Okay, so our next question is, do most professors hit the ground running, or is the first week slower to account for people dropping and adding classes, also to get last minute textbooks?
Let me try first as well. This is Minder Chen. Personally, I get started in running right away. Certainly, I'm aware of students have 3 weeks to drop from the class without any permission. So my major assignment won't be due after the third week. But you need to be aware of that 3 weeks kind of deadline, because after the third weeks, then it takes extra procedure for you to drop. And sometimes students may be shopping around for a number of courses, and they may decide to drop one because they were overwhelmed, and that is fine. But I guess it's probably a good courtesy if you're dropping from a class, maybe inform the professor. It's not necessary, but I think it's a courtesy, let them know. And so it depends on the professor. Some professors go through the syllabus and then tell you any question you may have about the class. They may not cover a lot the main course material right away, but it all depends. In college, the professor has a lot of freedom in terms of how they arrange the class. So you will see actually different professors manage the class, delivering the material differently. Okay.
I would say,
Jeff?
go on. Oh, I would say be prepared to hit the ground running. If it's not the case, then that's fine. But for example, for me, I'm teaching Monday, Wednesday classes this semester because Labor Day and Veterans Day are on a Monday and Wednesday. That means that 2 of the class days that I had material that I was going to teach are gone, which means I need to find more time to go over the material to teach than I would normally. So that means I have to use that first day in ways that maybe I wouldn't in other semesters. And so you're going to see some variety, but be prepared for the course to begin that first week.
Mm-hmm. And it seems to me like that's even more true in our current situation, I would say, because I think I agree with everything that I heard y'all say, that in the sense of every faculty is different yet again, so it's kind of difficult. Some maybe ease into things, some have something due on the first day. You need to look on Canvas and make sure there's not something, a reading due or a response due or something. But then it seems to me like, some faculty are going to be learning through this just like the rest of us. And there's going to be some growing pains, and there's going to be some changes maybe that they bit off too much and they realize that a weekend and they kind of adjust some things. And, I'm speaking for other people here, but this is my assumption. And so I think that all means from a student perspective, don't set yourself up for failure by banking on the fact that it's going to be a slow start. I'll catch up later. And maybe the opposite. So be prepared to hit the ground running. And then, of course, you can be pleasantly surprised if you have, as far as a workload issue and stuff in the first couple of weeks, if you have a faculty member or two that kind of has a slow start, but you wouldn't be behind in the other classes.
I also would like to, something that maybe is not specifically said in the question, but if you're thinking that maybe you're going to spend that first week figuring out your schedule or you don't have all your classes, that's fine. But what I really encourage you to do is be proactive. If you're on a wait list for a class and you're like, maybe I'll get in, maybe I won't, I would email the professor and say, are you planning on admitting people from the wait list? I don't know if you can see where you are on the wait list, but I would say if you are still trying to resolve your schedule, reach out at the end of next week, not that first week of classes, to try to talk to your professors to figure out and finalize your schedule.
Mm-hmm. Because would you agree, Jeff, even though you want to stay optimistic, you don't want to bank on anything. You want to kind of bank on the worst case scenario is from an advisor perspective is what I always kind of say, right?
Absolutely.
Don't just, if you got to have this many units, don't hope you're going to get in these last 2 classes or something. Go ahead and then even enroll in another class to cover yourself, or, figure out some kind of backup system, and you can always figure out something within that first week.
Well, I would like to point out that these are transfer students, so they'll probably be taking a lot of upper division classes. Now, I can say for sure that in biology and in chemistry, we do hit the ground running. So before the pandemic, we were hitting the ground running. After the pandemic, I know for my colleagues and myself, we've been preparing by setting up our Canvas courses online. And so, and talking to my colleagues in chemistry and biology, they're going to be opening up, if they haven't already, their Canvas pages. Now, one thing I wanted to go back to the last question about how do you figure out what books you need. One thing that wasn't mentioned besides Canvas, because if they haven't opened it up, they most likely will have in biology and chemistry, is if you go to the Channel Islands webpage, scroll all the way down to current students, click on current students, hit the course offerings, fall 2020 course offering, click on your major, or not the major, but the course, the department, like Biology 201, click on that, and then there's a little icon that looks like a set of textbooks. Click on that icon next to the course listing, and it will link you to the bookstore, or it may not, but most classes will have the required text, at least at first glance, for people whose professors have not opened up their Canvas page. Even going forward, when you're looking at your spring classes, do that first. Because if you're trying to choose a class, let's say Bio 333, this is Emerging Public Health Issues, there's 3 faculty who teach that course. 2 of us have decided to have it as an open CI, no cost textbook materials course, and one of us decided to select a textbook for students to purchase. Now, if you're trying to decide between these 2 classes and the cost of a textbook is something that matters to you, this is how you can choose before you actually enroll. So this is a helpful tip I'd like to point out going forward when you're signing up for the spring semester and beyond. Now, I think I answered those 2 questions.
But Caroline, could I add also, to add to that, you're exactly right. And there's also another icon that's it's like a $ with a slash through it. And there's a little bit of a key on the website that Carol was pointing you to, so you might be able to figure it out on your own. But this is saying that it's a no-cost textbook course. And the only trick here is that sometimes there'll be neither of these. There won't be the $, there won't be a book, so what's it say? And that says the faculty didn't let somebody know in time, and it doesn't mean that there's not a book, it means that it's just not being reflected what is going on. So the book would tell you what book has been, what textbook has been assigned, a $ with a slash through it says that you're still gonna have readings, and there still might even be a textbook, but it's gonna be no cost, and there might be more information on how to access it in the Canvas, or the professor might tell you later. And then of course, like I said, then there's a kind of a no option that maybe you can email to find out or do what you want to.
Thank you all for all the helpful tips. So our third question that we received was, what are some questions we aren't asking but should be asking? So, what is something to prepare for that students don't necessarily know they should prepare for?
Let's Minder. Let me try first. One thing came up based on the last question that is that when you look at your class that you sign up for, some classes has a specific time to it. That probably implied the instructor will have a Zoom section, like a virtual classroom, same time virtual classroom kind of arrangement. But there are some classes that has no time at all, maybe have something called ARR arrangement. That probably means it's a totally asynchronous type of online class, which means there will be recorded lectures and reading material, online assignment, exercise. So you need to figure out which class will be meeting online at scheduled class time, what classes will be totally online without a set schedule. And for those classes, I think you need to be paying extra attention in terms of have a discipline, because there's no specific time. So you start skipping certain thing and say, I can take care of it towards the end of the week. Very easily, you miss certain major reading, watching the video. So you need to be aware of there may be the difference between 2 types of online classes, and make sure you understand what has been arranged. I think that's important. One thing which is minor, and if you have all your classes settled, has been selected, something came up at least for some of our students particularly, when they look at course offering, they may see a class that's still open, but they couldn't get in because we were talking about the course textbooks. There's some icon for the courses. For some classes that has EU mark as an icon, that means it's an extended unit course that's for, in business school, it's for online degree program students. That's not usually for our stateside student. In the extreme case, if you really need to get that class and you're willing to pay extra tuition, you need to contact the EU office, extended university office, or the instructor to see when you can get in. There's no guarantee, so be aware of that. Okay.
So we do have a couple of other questions. What are some recommendations you have for a new virtual setting?
Or what was the last few words, Sarah?
Recommendations for a new virtual setting?
I think be willing to ask questions about what your professor expects of you. Every professor is going to have a different way of coping with this semester. And maybe they won't communicate that as clearly to you as they hope to. It's entirely fair, and it's important for your learning to, if you're unclear about what the expectations are, what a class meeting means, ask the professor. I think that's the biggest thing is to, I think these questions aren't so hard because they're about like the technical aspect of the class, but I know that sometimes it takes a little activation energy to email your professor, talk to your professor. I would encourage you to be brave. Whenever you're unclear about something, ask a question. We really are here to help you learn. That's our goal. That's our motivation in life. And if there is something we haven't done to make it clear as we can to you about how to be successful in the class, definitely reach out.
Mm-hmm. For the original question, that's Jeff said it better than I would have said it, but that's one of the answers that I was thinking of, was the idea that especially if you're falling behind or not doing well, or you have other aspects going on in your life, if you're comfortable sharing some of that, if you're comfortable reaching out, don't do anything you're not comfortable with. But I just can't help but think that we're going into an unprecedented semester. There's going to be some strange things going on. And, if it's not too much information, we're dealing with a lack of daycare behind the scenes over here, and it's changed everything on my end, more than I anticipated, frankly. And so I anticipate my students are going to be dealing with the exact same things, maybe parent care as well, maybe additional jobs or a loss of a job, or just different things that are going on. So if you're comfortable, don't do anything you're uncomfortable with. But sometimes, to try to piggyback on what Jeff is saying, always faculty are here to help. That's what we're here for. We want to try to help you succeed. So sometimes it can make a big difference just to communicate with us, maybe let us know the next couple of weeks are going to be tough. I'm still trying to figure this out. There's another way I could do this because I can't find a quiet place in my whole house at all, without people busting in on me. And you just, talk to us as humans. Don't be intimidated, maybe. I think when I was in undergrad, sometimes I thought of the professor as being something that he or she was not, just to let you know, unapproachable and intimidating. And so, but if you just let us know what's going on, if you're comfortable, that we're here to help.
Now, adjusting with the this virtual setting, one challenge that we're going to have to deal with is setting up study groups. Before, you students will come into the classroom, you're sitting next to some people, you start chatting, how's your day? What do you think about this? Did you finish this assignment or that? You won't have that anymore. So a lot of your faculty will try to actually be proactive in facilitating opportunities for you to meet people in your class so that you can get together virtually. Okay, let's make sure you are meeting virtually and just having Zoom for like 1 hour a day and just work on the problem sets that you have for class together. Okay, no cheating, obviously, but at least to have, it's important to not isolate yourself. Yes, we are there. We're here to help. That is absolutely true. But there are a lot of resources that the university provides. You have your peer, the PLTL, the tutors, the fellow students who have taken the class that you're going to be taking. But it's very important to not neglect forming study groups, especially for sure in STEM. You need your study groups to help motivate you to learn the material more deeply. I can't stress that enough. And because me and my colleagues in biology and chemistry recognize this, especially also in the lower division classes, we're going to be helping you find a group of students to study with. Like, we'll be asking within our learner survey, would you like to be in a study group? And then as time goes on and you meet more people in your class, then you can form other additional study groups. So please, please, please don't forget that, because we're in this virtual setting and we can watch videos of our professors whenever we want, 3 in the morning if we have to, because we're taking care of our kids. Don't neglect reaching out and forming virtual communities and connections with your fellow classmates, please.
If I may add to other advisors' comment, one thing, sometimes students felt that for the online classes, they're not getting the value they're paying for. But I would argue that working from home may be the norm, at least in the near future, and it will be an important skill down the road. So participating in this virtual classroom, particularly in this virtual peer group assignment or study group, you would try to explore all those online tool, and try to learn how to use different tool to facilitate this collaborative virtual work. I think that can add to your skill set, not only to be successful in your study at school, but also in your future workplace, which may go virtual at least partially.
Mm-hmm. I like that, Mender, because I like the lens of seeing it as a added skill that you'll learn that help you in life, and not just the technology aspect of it about how to collaborate virtually or how to use Zoom or something, but the whole idea of self-motivation that we've mentioned a couple of times on here, and keeping yourself on task, and being responsible and things like this, to use other vague words that I think we can all agree with. But back in high school, they would send a note home or something if you missed class or if you were missing assignments, and when you come to college, it's just not that way. And in this coming semester, it might even be further down the spectrum, at least for some classes and with some faculty, that there's even kind of a less of a check-in, or kind of less of someone over your shoulder reminding you or whatnot. So if you develop that skill of being organized, responsible, being proactive, thinking about what you can do, my goodness, that would be like the best skill you can develop, I think, over the next couple of years for life.
Mm-hmm.
One question that we just received, kind of, I think, going back to we're living in these unprecedented times and giving grace to ourselves as just humans, dealing with all these other side things that have gone a little left because of everything we're living through. So somebody asked, will professors be more flexible in cases of accepting late work?
It's going to vary from professor to professor. It is my hope. I'm the chair of the math program, and I have encouraged my faculty to be flexible and compassionate when it comes to students. But every faculty member is different. From my standpoint, there are 2 different ways in which late work arrives. One is, I've been working on it and I just need a day or 2. I'm more than happy to give someone the opportunity to complete something that they've been working on. However, if someone, in week 7 realizes that maybe I should have been turning in homework all semester, and then I'm a little less forgiving. So I would say, if you are making a genuine effort and you reach out to your faculty member and saying, this is where I'm at, I think I need this much time to complete my assignment, I'm confident that the vast majority of instructors will say, yes, that's fine. If you get super duper behind, please don't do that. But that's a different conversation at that point.
Okay, let me try to follow up with that. Is regarding assignment, I always tell my student, even in the traditional class, and say, do your assignment. Don't skip the assignment, because in my class I have at least 3 major assignments, 10 points each. I use a 100-point system. If you miss assignment, it's 1 letter grade difference. If you don't submit it, it's 1 letter grade difference. Okay, and yeah, sometimes you struggle with assignment. The best way to do it is communicate with your professor and say, I'm struggling. I don't know how to get started. But typically, I don't like to hear, I don't know how to get started. You should tell the professor, this is what I have done. I got stuck here. Okay, show that you have done something. I got stuck here. This is the error message, and what I need to learn, or what's the stumbling block. Can you help me out? So you kind of need to do your part. Don't just throw your hands. I have no idea about this assignment. Okay, you say, I done this, but I don't know how to move forward. Okay, help me out. All the professors are here to help you out, but you have to do your part at least as a first step.
I really like being on a panel with smart people, because I'm just agreeing with everything you're saying and trying to add something extra to it. I just agree 100% with what Minder's saying. Is I feel like one of the worst mistakes I see students do is to not do anything at all. And just from a pure mathematical perspective, that just sinks your grades so quickly. Because if you just attempt it and just fill out some bubbles on the bubble sheet, or turn in your half-baked rough draft, if you get a failing grade, if you get 30%, that's 30% more than you would get. It's just, there's a big difference between a failing grade and a 0. The big difference between not doing it at all and doing the best you can underneath the circumstances, whatnot. What was it? Woody Allen, I think, said that 90% of success is showing up, and something about that seems relevant here. Just, if we're overwhelmed and then just to not show up at all, or to not know what to do, so to not do it at all, that's absolute worst. Just do the best you can, do something. And the worst case scenario is you get a failing grade, which is fantastic compared to 0.
So I think a follow-up to that would be around mid-semester, there always seems to be a drop in motivation, maybe more so in a virtual setting. What do you recommend students do to stay motivated?
I think focus on your long-term goals. Where is this going to get you? I mean, you came here for a reason. Everybody comes to college for their own reason. There are people that have supported you to get to this point. There are people that you yourself have goals, but there are people around you that have goals for you as well. And when you're in the middle of a semester, it can feel like a whole lot of little things are building up. But take the time to think about, why did you come here? What is your goal in life? What are you trying to get out of this experience? And seeing each of those little things as a step closer to the ultimate goal, I think take time to reflect on that, and you'll find some motivation there.
Let me add to what Jeff mentioned. I think it is important. Certain courses, you may say, I'll never use calculus again, okay? But you never know.
So okay. Jeff's face over there.
You never know, because let's in business school, that's a required course. Okay, if you really want to go to more advanced study in graduate school, that's very important. Although you say, no, I'm not going to go to pursue a master's degree, so I just need to pass this class whatsoever. But the other thing is, even the course may not seem to be relevant in your opinion, but it's there for a reason for your major. And a lot of time you just use that subject to learn how to learn something new. Okay, that's kind of a meta skill, something even you don't like. Okay, you learn how to learn, and also try to see whether you can apply it to even in your daily life. Like if you learn a little bit spreadsheet, maybe do a personal budgeting little thing. So you say, oh, the spreadsheet can be used for this. So try to apply it. If you don't apply it, may not be in solving assignment problem, but in something maybe that you need to do on daily basis, and see, and that will give you extra motivation. As an instructor, I usually, before I started a subject area, I usually give a little bit motivational speech, like this is the scenario where you need this skill, okay? And you can sometimes ask the professor, where this apply? Okay, if they may not make that clear, you can subtly ask that question, like where does this fit in the whole schema of things that we're learning here in sociology, in whatever major you're in? You could certainly ask that question, like why I have to learn this, but you have to ask that in a very politically polite way. But then they definitely have a way to, I know, I hear history professor, like why you need to learn history, okay? And they give great answer. I'm convinced history is important, okay? And so that's one way you can deal with the issue in terms of dropping in motivation.
Mm-hmm. This might be too much of a rabbit trail, but just so we don't set somebody up for failure and they take away something bad out of this, I feel a theme is the idea of ask questions and reach out to your faculty. And I would say, if it needs to be said, always think about how that's coming across to your faculty member, because we get asked questions all the time, like, I missed class last Wednesday. Did I miss anything important? We get that in email. Like, think about that from our perspective. You're like, no, nothing important. There's no reason for anyone to have been there. In fact, I don't even know why I was there now that I'm thinking about it. I mean, of course, we think it's important. We think you should have been there. So similarly, why are we learning this? If you ask it incorrectly, it can come across very off-putting. Or if even something with a textbook, is this textbook, is it needed? Are we really going to use it? Well, of course, I think we're going to use it. That's the reason I'm, assigning it. So if you can think about how often we're going to use it, are there any major assignments that directly apply to it? Or, how does this fit into my larger curriculum, like Mender was saying? If you can just ask ways with keeping in mind how it can come across to the faculty, just trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all good points. But in terms of addressing a drop in motivation, you can try your best to prevent this drop in motivation, remembering that you're there. Yes, learn how to learn, right? Learn how to learn. And also, why are you a student right now? So you have an image in your mind. Like I get a lot of students like this, like they're first generation students. So I'm very conscious of the population that we have. And, they have this image like, well, it's the education that I'm trying to obtain, the degree I'm trying to obtain is not just for me, it's for my family and my future family members. So, try to keep that in mind, but also to ensure that you don't have this drop in motivation, forming those study groups, okay? Very important. Being disciplined with your studies. And I know that a lot of my students have multiple jobs, multiple part-time jobs, like one on campus and one off campus. But really, as a full-time student, your job is to learn. It's to learn. So be very disciplined about setting up which class video you're going to watch on Monday, which assignments you're going to submit on Monday versus Tuesday, and chip at it and have these scheduled meetings with your fellow students. That way you're not going to feel in the middle of the semester, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't find the motivation. No, you got to keep on going. It's just like working out, and I'm not really one to know this, but if you have this goal of like dropping 10 pounds, then what do you got to do to drop those 10 pounds, right? Mm-hmm. Consistency. That is very important for your motivation. or to prevent your motivation from dropping.
Mm-hmm. And the specifics of how to do these things, right? I'm thinking with losing weight, you know, we all know exercise more, eat better, but that's so vague, it doesn't really help anybody. So it can help to really get specific about what's that mean and how am I going to do that?
Break it up.
What works
So
for
that's
me.
my
and,
illustration with Monday schedule, Tuesday schedule. Break up time management, right? And fitting in when you can submit that assignment. If it's at 3 in the morning, as long as it's before the due date. But
and whatever works for you. Because we all have different approaches. I'm still going to the working out in my head. That some people like working out in the morning, some like working out in the evening, and you know, it's just different things for different people. But figuring out what works for you is step one, and specifically what works for you. Again, I'm just agreeing with everything that was already said because it's a smart panel, and I don't really know why I'm here.
So I saw a question from Bridget in the chat, which I think is important, and it was about how to form study groups. And one thing I would like to point out is that the majority of students at Channel Islands are transfer students. In the classes, you're all transfer students. You're going to be taking upper division classes. In your upper division classes, it's quite likely that 3/4 of the class is full of transfer students just like you. So if you're feeling a little disconnected from the course community or the major community, I think the most important thing to do is to reach out to your peers. Say, hey, this is a time that I can study. Is there anybody else that wants to come study with me? If you do that, there will be people that will want someone to study with. So I think that forming study groups is fundamentally important. It's a little harder because of the situation we're in. So recognize that it's a little harder. It's going to require you to do something. You know, the professor might help, but the best way to do it is to take ownership yourself and ask people if they want to study with you.
And I just also want to mention that there have been a lot of resources and great links added to the chat. So if you want to check out like the STEM Center, the Writing Center for a lot of additional help and resources. So I do want to be mindful of the agenda. So I think our last question for each of you will be, if you could tell your younger college self something, what advice would you give yourself?
Could you repeat the question again?
Yes, if you could tell your younger self something, what advice would you give yourself?
I know what mine is, that just a reminder of the imposter syndrome. If you all haven't heard of that enough already, or if you haven't been reminded of it, I think we can all benefit from being reminded of it. So if you have heard it, like was mentioned, I was a transfer student as well. It was also mentioned is that the majority of the students at CI are also transfer students. So sometimes we can mistakenly think that we're the only one that's in this boat and that everyone else has it figured out and everyone else has it under control, but I don't, because I don't belong here. Maybe I'm in over my head, you know, whatever you're telling yourself. And that's just the imposter syndrome, that we all feel like an imposter when we enter this kind of new context and we go to the next level. But if you realize that for the most part, everyone's feeling that way, you know, that's the paradox of it. And what's so interesting about it, that everyone's feeling uncertain, and everyone sometimes is feeling isolated, like they're the only one, and on and on. And so just realizing that for my younger self, I think, looking back, would be the step one into putting it in perspective, you know, gathering some self-confidence or some humility, you know, all different things you need, some courage to reach out to students for a study group like's been suggested, the courage to reach out to a faculty member to ask a clarifying question like's been suggested, but not realizing that you're not alone or that you're not inadequate compared to everyone else. You got this.
Okay.
Balance, get some sleep. That's what I wish I had been very disciplined about. You need balance in your life. Like I said, breaking up your schedule, bite-sized chunks for going through or completing the course activities. I mean, you have multiple courses, so you know, one course you may have like 2 papers, a quiz, and 1 chapter to read per week. So balance is key. Breaking things into smaller chunks, but also add in time to sleep, because it's very important. If you want to learn, if you want to retain that information that you're required to have to pass the course or get that job, then you need sleep.
For me, I I didn't study with others enough. I would have told myself, reach out to others, study with other people. I was successful, but it took a lot of time to be successful doing everything by myself. If you want to be efficient with your time, find other people to study with. I think that's what I would have told myself.
Okay. If I have a second chance to go back in time, Jeff, I think you agree. I will beef up my math skill. Okay. For a lot of advanced study without the math, you cannot go too far. And so with that, sometimes some subject may be difficult, challenge, boring, sometimes. That's why people pay you to do certain job. If it's fun, easy, I call that entertainment. You have to pay somebody in order to do it. Okay. So face the challenge and certain subject area, once you know it, there's a fun in it, in learning new skill and find out where you can apply some of the skill. And so that's first, but with that, I think it's very important, some of the faculty advisor mentioned, is really try to have a balance. Certain thing, even in terms of the courses you're taking, I sometimes joke about students taking like the beach. Nothing against the beach, but you can make a beach class maybe into part of your future career. Okay, a good example would be Steve Jobs dropped out of his college, but still hang out and took a class in calligraphy, and that class actually has a huge impact to him. In terms of the design of a Macintosh was beautiful font, which make Macintosh very popular. So a lot of things which doesn't seem to be relevant, but it may end up to have tremendous impact to your future life or career. So take each of the class, take the opportunity to take each of the class, whether that's GE, UDGE, or major courses seriously. Put in your own time. Study. Okay, my mentor once said that if you study a book 100 times, you would know it. I dropped the standard like at least 3 times. Okay, at least once, read it back to back. Okay, and if you don't understand it, try it again. I think 3 times you will actually get it. A lot of textbooks are well written, believe it or not. Okay. Also, there's a lot of other resources. I'm learning new things every day. Sometimes I would just Google it with the right keyword. You'll find some wonderful YouTube video, which can help you to understanding better. So once you kind of find different resources to cover the same topic from different angle, different style of teaching, you will learn the subject very well. Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for these wonderful gems. I encourage everyone to use their applause reaction because I learned a lot. So I think that wraps up our panel. Thank you so much to all of our faculty who joined us. Back to you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Rosetta. Thank you, Dr. Chen. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins and Dr. Buell. We realize classes haven't even started yet, and here you are already connecting with us and connecting with our students. I just wanted to say you all embody the true CI spirit, and I personally know how much each of you do for our transfer students. So I just want, as a former transfer student myself, I just want to thank you for joining us today. I know all of that went really quickly, but again, like I said, really glad you all were able to join us. I just want to echo, those were some great questions, some great conversation points. I just want to echo what everyone has really been saying, and even on our side as CSUCI staff, we're all still on a little bit of a learning curve as we're kind of living through this new reality. So the one thing I would just say is we encourage you to just stay connected even with us. You've met some of us here today, and at the end of this, I'll be dropping in my email. If you look at the CSUCI, there's a webpage, there's a directory. Now that you've met us and you know our name, you can always send any of us an email. So don't hesitate. That part is very transparent. And so I just want to say, drop an email to us, ask questions, even if you do have them later on. And so just some great reminders, I think, that came out of our conversation today. The majority of us at CSUCI were first-gen students ourselves, or the majority of you are first-gen students. The majority are transfer students. And so I just want to pause here and say to all of us and to you as our incoming students, you may be first, but in case someone hasn't told you, you're not alone. So reach out, even in a virtual setting, stay connected and be sure to communicate. Let someone else know what you're going through. If you don't yet feel ready to reach out to your professors, reach out to some of the other students, reach out to someone. It's important to stay connected and to communicate. And so in case we haven't said this to you out loud, I want to be sure to tell you, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. As our incoming transfer students, you have exactly what it takes, and you belong at CSUCI. So we just want to remind ourselves, even as you're taking on something completely unknown, and just know we're right there with you. We don't know any more than you do about what this next virtual fall will look like, but we're willing to be in it with you completely. So we do want to get your information, some feedback from you regarding today's sessions. We're always trying to provide information that's important to you as an incoming transfer student, and just know we use the feedback that you provide to help prepare for this particular event. So we would like to invite your participation. There's a short survey we would like for you to complete. We're dropping the link to the survey on the screen and in your chat right now. So go ahead and click on the link. We're going to take the last few minutes of the session to complete the survey. If you miss it here, don't worry. We're also going to email you the link and email you the RSVP. So go ahead, click on the link to provide some of that feedback. One thing that I want to be sure to mention, as Lucero said, there were a lot of resources that we were throwing into the chat today. There are some great links. There's requests that you can put in even now to connect up to a peer mentor, to connect up to a tutoring session. So we want to be sure to have you to provide those links for you. So what we're going to do is we'll send out an email to everyone that just kind of puts together all the links so that you can see that. Again, we'll be sending out the recording, so you'll have that in the recording as well, but we want to make sure you have links to some of the resources that we mentioned. So again, go ahead, click on the link in the chat. If you can, we have the link to kind of the evaluation session that if you could, we're just gonna, there we go. It's linked there. So go ahead and pause, take a couple of minutes, link over to that survey, and just, if you can, jot a few feedback points for us. For all of you that were able to join us, I know, I can't believe 2 hours went by so quickly, but know that this isn't the last time that you'll hear from us at CSUCI and staff, and so feel free to reach out to us even after this event is over. We're so excited that you all are going to be starting your new semester at a new school. It's going to be a great time. CSUCI is an amazing place to be. So thank you all again. We're going to hang tight for just a few minutes. Feel free to stay on and click over on that link and be completing all of the information on the feedback form. We really, really value that. We use the feedback from every previous year to kind of help us decide what information to include. We always want to be including information that you find important. All right, team, I think this is close to the end. If you haven't yet taken the link with you, go ahead and copy it from the chat and paste that in. We'll look forward to seeing all your feedback, but we're about to log off also, so just a quick goodbye. We've hit the 12 o'clock hour. Thank you all for joining us.